Around 4,500 years ago, a wonder of the world was built in Egypt, one that continues to amaze people even today, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Standing 147 meters tall, it remained the tallest structure in the world for over 4,000 years. The pyramid was constructed with massive stones and is said to weigh around 6 million tons. For comparison, the world's current tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, weighs only about 500,000 tons. This leaves us with a fascinating question: how was it built? Back then, people didn't have cranes, bulldozers, or modern technology. In fact, they didn't even have the wheel. Yet, they managed to create a monument that still stands today. Can you imagine a structure surviving more than 4,500 years of scorching summers, powerful storms, torrential rains, and constant weathering? There's no other surviving structure of this size and age. So how was it made possible? Let's explore the mystery of the pyramids. The Great Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramid is arguably the most enigmatic structure on Earth. Built around 2500 BC, it remained the tallest structure in the world for over 3,500 years. Constructed as immense tombs of shining white limestone, the pyramids were designed to conceal the secrets of the dead. The further we go back in time, the harder it becomes to know exactly what happened, when, and how. Historians estimate that the Great Pyramid of Giza was built around 2560 BC during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, the second monarch of Egypt's fourth dynasty. Very little is known about Khufu. Some historians believe he ruled for 23 years, others say 34 years, and some even claim more than 60 years. The pyramid stands on the west bank of the Nile River, and it isn't alone. Two other large pyramids stand alongside it. The Pyramid of Khafre, slightly smaller, built by Khufu's son. The Pyramid of Menkaure, the smallest of the three, built by Khafre's son. Together with the Great Sphinx, numerous burial tombs, and smaller pyramids, these make up one of the most iconic archaeological sites in the world. In total, more than 118 pyramids of varying shapes and sizes have been discovered across Egypt, though many have been eroded by time. The three pyramids of Giza remain the most well-preserved, with the Great Pyramid being the most famous. Why were they built? Like many ancient monuments, the pyramids were tombs for the pharaohs. The ancient Egyptians believed in an afterlife. They thought death was not the end, but the beginning of a journey to the underworld where souls were judged by the gods. Those who lived righteous lives would live eternally. To prepare for this, pharaohs commissioned grand tombs during their reign. Food, treasures, jewelry, furniture, and clothing were buried with them so they could use these in the afterlife. After death, their bodies were mummified and sealed inside a wooden or stone sarcophagus. How do we know this? Two main reasons. Writings and inscriptions found in pyramids and sarcophagi describe their customs. The majority of pyramids in Egypt and Sudan were used as tombs. But specifically in the case of the Great Pyramid of Giza, no definitive evidence was found. When archaeologists entered, they discovered only 3 relics and an empty sarcophagus believed to belong to Khufu. The treasures that once surrounded it were likely looted long ago. This lack of evidence has led to many alternative theories, some logical, some bizarre. Conspiracy theories. One popular claim is that the Great Pyramid was actually a power plant that generated electricity. Supporters argue that ancient Egyptians were technologically advanced and knew how to harness energy. They point to temple artwork that they interpret as depictions of a light bulb. But historians confirm these artworks actually illustrate mythological stories, not technology. If ancient Egyptians had invented the light bulb, where is the proof? Another strange theory suggests that the pyramids were granaries for storing crops. In 1998, American politician Ben Carson even proposed that Joseph, from the Bible, built the pyramids for this purpose. As you can see, conspiracy theories often arise either from a lack of evidence or for political and religious appeasement. Anyway, today it is absolutely clear, all historians agree, that the Great Pyramid of Giza was built as a tomb. Back then, people believed that the grander the tomb, and the more treasures and food it contained, the better the pharaoh's afterlife would be. Now we come to the biggest question: how were these pyramids built? This remains the most mysterious aspect. How did people for 1,500 years ago build a structure 147 meters tall using massive stones weighing between 2.5 and 80 tons each? Each stone was cut so precisely and stacked so evenly at a time when there were no standardized tools, no wheels, and no modern machinery. And all of this was completed in just 20 years. Who built the pyramids? A common misconception, reinforced by films, is that slaves built the pyramids, poor people forced into labor, starved, whipped, and abused. This belief originated with the Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC. But today, we know this is false. The pyramid builders were skilled workers, not slaves. They were well-fed, stronger, and healthier than the average Egyptian of that era. Entire cities were built near the construction site to house them. Communities supported them throughout the year. For example, farmers joined the workforce when their fields were not in use. In essence, the pyramids were a national project uniting citizens in service of their pharaoh. About 20,000 to 30,000 workers are estimated to have built the Great Pyramid, working 10-hour days. They used 5.5 million tons of limestone, 8,000 tons of granite, 500,000 tons of mortar. Most materials came from nearby quarries, though some granite was transported from southern Egypt, nearly 800 kilometers away. How were the stones cut? The Egyptians mainly used copper tools. For harder rocks like granite, they used dolerite to pound and break the surface. They also developed clever techniques, finding cracks in rocks, inserting wooden wedges, soaking them in water, and letting the swelling would split the stone apart. How were the stones moved? Without wheels, how could they transport stones weighing tons? One plausible theory is that stones were floated on rafts along the Nile. Once at the site, they were pulled across the ground using sledges on wet sand. This idea comes from a painting in the tomb of Jehuti-Hotep around 1900 BC. It shows 170 men pulling a statue on a sledge, while one man pours water on the sand ahead. At first, archaeologists thought this was a ritual. But in 2014, physicist Daniel Bond tested it and found that adding just 2 to 5% water to sand reduces friction, making it much easier to drag heavy loads. How were the stones lifted? This is even more puzzling. Without wheels or pulleys, how were stones lifted and stacked hundreds of feet high? The leading theory is that the Egyptians used ramps. In 2015, archaeologists discovered a 4,500-year-old wooden ramp system in a quarry. Scholars suggest they built long, straight ramps leading up to the pyramid. Wooden posts on the sides anchored ropes, helping workers pull stones upward. After each level was completed, a new, longer ramp was constructed at a gentler slope. Another theory is that they used levers. By placing a stone on one end of a long wooden pole and balancing it on a pivot, workers could gradually lift and maneuver the stone into place. A similar mechanism, the shaduf, had been used in Egypt for centuries to draw water from the Nile. The mystery remains. While these theories are reasonable, one major problem remains: time. If 20,000 workers placed each stone within 20 years, they would have needed to set one stone every 3 minutes, non-stop, year-round. This incredible speed seems nearly impossible. And that's why, friends, despite all the research and discoveries, the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza remains one of history's greatest mysteries. We know that the lowest layers of the Great Pyramid were placed without mortar, while the upper layers were reinforced with mortar. This clever engineering choice increased the pyramid's stability. It's because of this design that, even after thousands of years and several earthquakes, the Pyramid of Giza still stands strong. Interestingly, there is still a mystery surrounding the mortar. Although scientists have identified its chemical composition, they have never been able to recreate it perfectly. The final stage of construction was the outer casing. The pyramid was once covered in fine, white limestone that reflected the sunlight brilliantly, making the structure shine like a jewel in the desert. Sadly, most of this casing has eroded or been stripped away over time. Today, only a portion of it survives at the top of the Pyramid of Khafre, while Khufu's and Menkaur's pyramids have lost their gleaming exterior. Precision of the design. The design of the pyramids is equally astonishing. Did you know that the Great Pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to the 4 cardinal directions, north, east, south, and west? The margin of error is barely 1/15 of a degree. That level of accuracy is extraordinary, especially when you consider that the Egyptians did not have a compass, GPS, or any modern navigation tools. So how did they achieve it? One theory suggests they relied on the autumn equinox. During this time, when day and night are equal, shadows cast on the ground align perfectly east to west. Using this natural phenomenon, they may have determined their directions with incredible accuracy. Another theory suggests they relied on the stars. The Orion correlation theory. In 1989, Robert Bauval, an author and Egypt enthusiast, proposed the Orion correlation theory. He claimed that the 3 Pyramids of Giza were deliberately aligned to match the 3 stars in Orion's belt. According to him, this alignment showed that ancient Egyptians possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy. They tracked stars, studied their movement, and used them not only for design, but also for deciding agricultural cycles. However, most professional historians and astronomers consider this a fringe theory. Why? Because the pyramids were not planned or built simultaneously. Furthermore, in 1999, astronomers tested Bauvel's theory and found the pyramids did not align precisely with Orion's belt. The difference comes from the fact that constellations shift position over thousands of years. What we see in the sky today isn't exactly how the stars appeared in 2500 BC. The human tendency to find patterns. The Orion theory is a good example of how humans try to find patterns, even where none exist. When there is no definitive explanation, we create ideas, and if even the slightest link seems to fit, we treat it as truth. Take this tendency one step further, exaggerate it a bit, and you end up with bizarre theories, like the claim that the pyramids were built by aliens. In reality, such claims undermine scientific reasoning. They are shortcuts people take when they don't have concrete answers. It's better to admit what we know and clearly state what we do not know. That way, future generations of archaeologists and historians can continue their research and perhaps one day uncover the complete explanation. Thank you for watching.